They say exercise is great for mental health. Well, it can also be brilliant for a person with ADHD. This is because their brains will have a chemical imbalance and they will oftentimes have low dopamine and inefficient regulation of norepinephrine. So exercise increases dopamine levels and increases signalling. This provides the chemicals for attention, motivation, emotional regulation, and executive functioning, which result in the person feeling calmer, having clearer thought, and being less impulsive in their mood. It's also great for the grounding of hyperactivity symptoms, so racing thoughts and restlessness can be cleared with some exercise. And the fact that exercise is often repetitive movements, it actually doesn't require a lot of executive functioning to complete. So as long as that person can boost themselves to get to the gym or get out for a walk, then the benefits will come. The prevalence of ADHD is around 3 to 4% of the population, and it is characterised as either inattention or hyperactivity or a combination of both. So in terms of the diagnostic criteria around inattention, it relates to listening skills and appearing actually like the person isn't listening some of the time, even if they are retaining the information. Organisational capability and being able to organise multiple things. Task avoidance sometimes, so there can be a difficulty initiating a task. There can be procrastination seen before a task is started, with the overwhelm of kind of getting it started. But then quite oftentimes an ADHD person will complete 70-80% of the task and actually then struggle to finish the task. So things around task avoidance, there's distraction, which is commonplace, to be distracted by racing thoughts or things in our environment that kind of pull the attention away. And then there's sustaining that attention, which goes hand in hand with distraction, really. The ability to stay sustained on a task for a long period of time. And that can sometimes be because the task simply isn't challenging enough or exciting enough, or the mind gets distracted by other things from the hyperactivity element. Then onto the hyperactivity side of things, that covers things like fidgeting, or the need to use things like fidget toys or tap, that sort of thing. Quite often it's talked about how sometimes an ADHD person will struggle to sit in one place for too long, so they may be up and down in meetings more frequently because they need to burn off that hyperactive energy. I've heard people describe before, and I think it's a really great description, as almost seeming like they are ran on a motor. Like the motor keeps going, and it can keep going from a physical perspective that you can see, but also a mental perspective, because the brain is jumping from thought to thought to thought, or something environmental. It's jumping from sensory item that has been seen or the feeling of something, and it can jump very, very quickly. An ADHD person can also talk excessively, sometimes not quite understanding social norms in terms of when to take turn, or sometimes blurting out information. Sometimes as well, not quite understanding social norms around what is an acceptable contribution to a conversation, and blurting out things that may be deemed inappropriate but actually came from a genuine place and was never intended to be so. So they're sort of the way that the diagnostic criteria talk about the ADHD symptoms. And in terms of a work scenario, these can combine to create areas of improvement, perhaps around things like time management. So an ADHD person can actually be very, very organised, because they're able to jump from one thing to the next because their brain moves so fast. But actually sometimes they need tools in place to manage time, task boards, things like that. Or there's this technique called the Pomodoro technique, where you complete a task for segments of time. So it may be that you do a shorter task for 25 minutes, then take a 5-minute movement break. Then you do another task for 50 minutes, and then you take a 10-minute movement break. And this helps to break up their day, keep them active, keep their minds jumping from one thing to the next, but with intense focus in terms of that time-bound effort. Then there are impulsive communications, which we've touched upon, which can sometimes come across as a little bit random in meeting scenarios and that sort of thing. Or there are attributions to working memory, so the ability to juggle multiple tasks. As I say, and it's not that an ADHD person cannot do this, it's that sometimes they may have tools or techniques in order to juggle lots of things. And in a moment, we will discuss the types of roles, and a highly active operations role is actually a really great role for an ADHD person, because they are able to juggle effectively with the right strategies in place. And then there's that attention. So we mentioned about starting a task and sometimes struggling to finish a task. So having that mentorship within a business and good line management to ensure that tasks are completed end to end can be a helpful strategy for an ADHD person. Now, talking about the positive attributes that an ADHD person has, and they are in buckets, and they can be really, really strong members of the workforce. We start here with hyperfocus. So it's commonplace that when an ADHD person finds something interesting, they will really, really hyperfocus. And this is often around tasks that have clear problem statements that require an in-depth analysis to get to that outcome that's clearly measurable. So types of roles that they would be good at in this instance are things like a systems engineer or a data engineer, people that really need to go into depth. Another one is their energy and enthusiasm. It's quite often seen that hyperactivity can come through as real intense passion that can get a lot of people in the business excited about something. So these kind of high tempo individuals, and they do lend themselves to that very busy operational role, or they are very good at activating their energy when there is crisis. So an incident manager or a cybersecurity threat detector would be a good role to get that enthusiasm channeled in something that's a really direct outcome and result. Then they have really good adaptability and resilience. So quite often they will be very good at handling rejection or ambiguity, and they are trying to find that answer. They're trying to figure out how to get to that end point. And they also like novelty quite a lot. So the types of roles such as pre-sales or a consultant role, somebody that has to use that passion and energy and get to the end goal no matter what, is a good role type for an ADHD person. Finally, they have very good creativity and innovation, and there's a theme here about being very resilient and hyper-focused on getting to that end result. So if there is a way that a problem needs to be framed in a role such as product owner or enterprise architect, they'll be very good at designing roadmaps, very good at modelling concepts in a way that others can understand, and really getting to that problem statement that needs to be framed. So many positive attributes of an ADHD person when they are put into roles that unleash their passion, their hyperactivity, their ability to context switch from one thing to the next. But an ADHD person may need tools and a type of routine that allows them to remain focused across different aspects of their role.